Loki, god of mischief, was introduced to us in the first Thor movie. He was the younger brother of Thor, god of thunder. Just looking at his dark-haired and slim build let us know Loki was different from the brawny, golden-haired Thor. He relied on cunning and wit instead of strength, and it was nice to have a villain paired with a hero when they both did not have the exact same powers. But there are some things about Loki that just don't add up. Continue if you're curious about when and where Loki failed to make sense. Villainous heroism. Thanos might have been pumped as the big villain of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but Loki has always been the best villain that Marvel has ever produced. There is a depth to Loki that no other Marvel villain has had, a comprehensive center to his character that let us understand him better. We knew why he did the things he did. It may not make any logical sense, but we knew why Loki risked so much and elaborately schemed so much in order to get his father's praise. No one wants to feel like an outsider. However, even Loki's status as best MCU villain makes little sense. Why? Because he's more of a hero than he is a villain. It is Loki who is ultimately responsible for Thor turning into a heroic figure. It is Loki who sacrificed himself to save Thor's life in both Thor, The Dark World and Avengers, Infinity War. It is Loki who, despite the occasional betrayal, keeps returning to Thor's side to help his brother out. Loki is a great hero and a great villain. And you know what? I guess it doesn't have to make sense for it to still be totally cool. Real heritage. Loki was taken as a baby from Jotunheim, and the only people who knew of his real heritage were his adoptive father and mother. There is no physical reason to suspect he is not like everyone else on Asgard. He looks like an Asgardian. Most frost giants, the residents of Jotunheim, are taller and bluer than an Asgardian. But when Odin picked up Loki from Jotunheim, he cast this magical spell over him that concealed his true features. He did this with what looked like a simple wave of his hand. I do not know quite well how magic for Asgardians works, but I get the sense that once a character passes away, any spells they might have cast cease to exist as well. Powers going to waste. Here's another instance of one of Loki's powers going to waste, and again, it's brought to light in Thor, The Dark World. Loki shows us his ability to make himself appear like other people. He pretends to look like Odin at the very end, he pretends to look like a random Asgardian guard, and he even pretends to look like Captain America. This is a very useful ability. He can disguise himself as anyone and make escapes in that manner. It's the ultimate getaway card. So why doesn't he use this ability more often? He could have used this ability to fool the Avengers multiple times. He could have played with their minds by pretending to be them. Imagine if he had disguised himself as Nick Fury and had instructed them to do things that they were wary of doing. A lot of the heroes already did not trust the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. after they found out he was using the Tesseract to make weapons. If Loki, disguised as Fury, pushed them over the edge, the Avengers would have found it extremely difficult to ever trust Fury again. Loki's disguises could have totally sabotaged their efforts. But instead, Loki only uses a few of his abilities. Why? Because the Avengers have to win in the end. No takebacks. The twist at the end of Thor, The Dark World was that Odin was not really Odin. Loki had not perished at the hands of curse like we thought he had. He somehow managed to survive impalement, make his way to Asgard, and replace Odin as the ruler of Asgard. Later on, Thor talks to Loki when he's disguised as Odin. I don't blame Thor for being fooled. 1. He honestly thought that Loki was gone. He did not know to be on his guard for Loki's tricks. 2. When Loki was speaking as Odin, he sounded very Odin-like. In fact, as Odin, Loki offered to give the throne of Asgard to Thor. Thor nobly rejected it, knowing that he was still not fit for the throne, and Odin/Loki resumed leadership over the Asgardians. However, what would have happened if Thor had decided to accept the throne? I thought Loki was the kind of person who would want to cover all of his bases. If Thor had accepted rule over Asgard, what would Loki have done? Would he have just faded into the background of Asgardian life? Would he have told Thor, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to offer you the throne"? I take it back? You should really think about what you offer to someone before you offer it. Gone baby gone. Loki is the son of Laufey, king of the frost giants. Way back when, in the early history of the world, Asgard was at war with the frost giants. From the way Odin tells it, it sounds like a long and an arduous battle that lasted for centuries. By the time it was over, Odin was short one eye and Laufey was short one son. When Odin reveals the story of Loki's upbringing to Loki, he just makes it sound like he found an infant Loki on the battlefield and decided to pick him up and take him home. But there are so many things about this scenario that don't make any sense. If Loki was Laufey's son, that would make him next in line to be the king of the frost giants. I find it hard to believe that Laufey would just leave his child, his heir, lying around in the middle of a battlefield. Secondly, if Loki was just abandoned there, was Odin's reasoning for taking him home to Asgard really related to forming a peace between Asgardians and frost giants? Would Laufey have recognized a peace made between his biological son that was raised by his enemy? Would Odin have been okay with a frost giant eventually ruling both Jotunheim and Asgard? I understand Loki's own frustrations about Odin's purposes in rearing him. They're inexplicably nonsensical. Like the video if you liked it, report the video if you hated it, and subscribe to help us reach 300 subscribers, but only if you want to see more videos like this.